Hello and welcome to Zoho Development Stories. I'm Jason English, a senior analyst and CMO here at Intellyx. We're the digital transformation analyst firm. Today I have with me Taylor Backman. He's a senior evangelist for Zoho, and we're just going to talk a little bit about the new release of Zoho One and some of the new changes that's going to entail in the way that we think about how we use the software. Zoho just announced their latest release of Zoho One. It's their complete business operating system of applications for everything from CRM to back office work to low code development and security and service management. And of course, all of it using their own Zia AI and specialized models as well to handle the logic behind the scenes. Taylor, what would you say was the primary driving force behind this major release?
Yeah, that's a great question. The primary driving force behind this release is to continue to simplify the way that organizations are deploying and using software across their organization. We have over 50 apps in Zoho One, and we brought those together when we launched the product. And every day we're working to unify it and to simplify it. The goal at this point is really breaking down a lot of the application silos and barriers that force us to work in these very kind of specific ways. We want to be able to align data and processes with the way teams want to be working to help them, deliver the outcomes they're trying to hit.
Yeah, definitely. We've been users of Zoho since we started as well. It's kind of our business suite.
Yeah.
Uh, but a lot of this has to do with the changes brought about by AI. Zoho's approach to AI is very different than most technology companies that we work with. Can you highlight some examples of how Zia is different than other major AI assistants and co-pilots out there on the market today?
Yeah, I think one big difference with Zoho, and this is the case across our broader infrastructure, is that we manage and run all of it ourselves. We do a lot of core technologies in the data center, and so when it comes to AI, it's no different. We want to do it ourselves as well. So we're doing everything from the ground up and tying that into our existing infrastructure, optimizing it, passing on efficiencies. One key thing is we haven't gone down the route of trying to build these massive models that you see other companies doing like OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or so on. And instead, we've tried to focus on building what we're calling, more like small language models that are more purpose built to actually solve business problems. One of the big issues with AI right now is, how do companies actually make money,
Hmm.
developing it, and how do users actually get value from using it? So we are trying to not get over our skis with developing this stuff and making sure that we can continue to offer value in the product. So we've been doing that for a long time with things that are as simple as or sound as simple as like receipt scanning for expense management software. Sounds simple, pretty complicated because of all of the different ways that receipts are structured and data is organized and languages and decimal formats and everything. And in this latest release, we're continuing on with Ask Zia, for example, where it is connected to all of the business data in the Zoho platform that is powered by our business intelligence tool. So you can do queries and cross-functional reporting. And then crucially, because we have Zoho Directory, which is the directory service that sits underneath Zoho One, we understand all of the permission and access controls for all of that data as well, which means user queries are based on their permission sets, which is a really tough thing to do. So that is, I'd say one, maybe a few examples of how we're working with AI that's a bit different from other companies, particularly that last point around the directory. There's not really a lot of companies doing that.
Right. It's really a rich source of data for your own type of business logic that's included in them. I think you're like one of the first vendors that I ever heard of that was doing basically doing agentic AI before it was cool, right? Because of these small language models, which is really more of a sustainable approach when you're doing very specific functions. And then as you develop more small language models, those become like agents that can sort of talk to each other in a sense. And your Zia chatbot is like a orchestration layer on top of all of that as well, because it is using the permission data and the business data that you have all kind of centralized in your system. So it really is a great foundation for starting from that approach as opposed to just brute force
Right.
that we're
Well,
seeing out there.
totally. And there's a third component for Ask Zia as well, which is that it's trained on the Zoho knowledge base. So in addition to being able to do the orchestration, being able to work with the data, it also understands the Zoho tools themselves and can provide some assistance for customers. And that is of course, Ask Zia is a button that'll be at the bottom right of the interface, but that button actually will be right next to the Zoho support button. So you can actually talk to real people as well, because we feel very strongly that these two things have to be invested in hand. And, AI is not a replacement for all of our really awesome support people who do so much good to help and, brighten the days of our customers as they're dealing with their software.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so in terms of user experience, beyond AI to some extent, what are some of the guiding principles your team follows when trying to ease the cognitive load of working across all of these different applications?
I think the first is just being aware of the severe cognitive load of working across a bunch of applications. Developers and engineers are I know a lot of them now, and sometimes it's easy to get lost in the weeds a little bit, and you get real focused on the cool thing that you're building, and you forget that there's a person on the other end that needs to use this. The Zoho One team is all too aware that Zoho One has 50 applications and that's a minefield of potential problems. So easing the cognitive load is about unifying the experience and making it easy to interact with because of that unification. So I already mentioned Ask Zia, it's always going to be in the bottom right. If you want support, it's always going to be right there next to Ask Zia. Those two things are on our communication bar, which is where you can also chat with your coworkers one-to-one in group chats. That follows you around every tool you use or every page you visit within Zoho One. When it comes to something as simple as accessing the settings menu, it's going to be the exact same little gear icon in the top right. It never really moves. It shifts around a little bit as the interface adjusts contextually with some other options. But these are really simple little things, but they are the details that show we're really thinking about a strong framework for how to unify this experience and make everything a lot easier and simpler and provide a bit more peace of mind.
Yeah. So there's an interesting trend that comes to mind when you talk about Zia as part of the workflow, and then you're also talking about the elements of that user interface. And I'm curious to what extent you think users will shift to using AI as the interface rather than interacting directly with your product UIs or some of the dashboards in the system. Do you see that as a primary way some users will interact with Zoho, or will they still do work within interfaces?
It's a great question. I mean, I know for a fact there are customers that I've spoken to that are already building their own interfaces and piping data around and really taking advantage of a lot of, kind of cutting edge AI technology. So that's certainly going to happen. And as that becomes more available and as MCP servers get ramped up and all of that, I mean, I expect, yeah, more of that for sure. But as far as does AI fully kill the application? It's hard to say, but I think we're really ready for anything, and we're not really beholden to doing anything one way. We want to ultimately provide an excellent unified experience, and we're pretty flexible in how we see ourselves answering that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is open to interpretation because your customers are also delivering apps to their end customers. And
Yeah.
if they want that to be a chatbot style interface, that's what they can do. If they want it to be a low code application like Creator building an interface for them to use, that's okay too, right? And so,
Totally.
yeah, they'll expect to pass on some of those improvements to their users, I think.
Totally. Yeah, and a big hallmark at Zoho, right, is we really want to preserve and create as much flexibility and customer choice as we can. And that's illustrated today by our very broad product suite, which we offer in a lot of different ways. It's maybe even a little overwhelming at times, but that really ensures that people can get what they want and use it the way they want to. We do tons of third-party integrations, and that is another flexible thing that we think is really important. I mean, even with our new unified experience, with the way that our interface is done now, we're still bringing in the custom apps and the third party apps and treating them as well as we can. So when it comes to, do we even use the app anymore, or do we go to some other interface, it's keeping all those doors open. And given how technical Zoho is as a company, I just know there's tons of product and engineering people who are just dying at the opportunity to build some new way to do something different. So,
Mhm.
it's a pretty standard way that we operate.
Yeah, that's anywhere you have a lot of innovative energy, you're going to have new custom approaches that arise, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah,
So on the like, let's go further on this integration side. I mean, there's like you're saying, there's a whole lot of different external applications that are being brought into this workflow that your customers are using. So, how do you interoperate with those existing applications while still supporting, the complete workflows for customers who are Zoho native, who've been using it since the start?
it's a great question. So our product teams generally, from all the way to the way that we deploy our services, and then also the way we do integrations, we use a lot of centralized frameworks and a lot of centralization for different things. So product teams, for example, they know, hey, if this product is going to be used by people, we need to have this integration. And so they'll build the native integration, whether that's a Zoho tool or a third-party tool. We'll do that. But the way that we really scale beyond all of our teams taking that approach is we have a integration platform as a product itself, which is called Zoho Flow, and that integrates with over 1,000 different third-party applications. So it's this mix of being very tactical and doing the things that we absolutely have to do on one level, and then having a centralized layer that allows us to solve it at a bigger scale. So yeah, and then you add in some other nifty capabilities like our single sign-on, which we then can extend in a number of ways. We can do identity management even, right? Because of our sister division, Manage Engine, has a whole background in enterprise IT software. I mean, that's what they do, and they service
Yeah.
3/5 the Fortune 500. We then are able to bring in not only that third party data, but those third party applications with the single sign on and SAML, log the user into those applications, have that application in the unified interface. A lot of really powerful things are possible there.
Yeah, it not only helps kind of encapsulate all of that functionality into the Zoho One suite, but it also acts as sort of a secure network fencing in a sense
Sure.
around
Yeah.
what they're doing here. I mean, and just to like touch on that point a little more, there's so many external applications, and now you have a lot of different Gen AI tools and other AI agents that might be interacting with Zoho, perhaps through your MCP server that you're
Yeah.
rolling out in this release too. How do you really approach authorization and security um, to just to make sure that people understand that they're still safely moving forward into this new world?
Totally. Yeah. Security and privacy are two things that we take extremely seriously. We have a lot of customers, right? I mean, we are closing in on 1 million. We have over 130 million users globally. So it's very important to keep everyone's data secure and private. We have, world-class people working on that, doing things that I don't even particularly understand, but things that are certainly necessary. And back to that kind of point I made about centralization, we have a team that focuses purely on identity and account management, and it locks down all that data and then make sure that the right aspects of that information are connected in the right ways, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of smart people working very hard to keep everything secure and private.
Yeah, great. Well, Taylor, this has been really a great conversation. I'm glad you could join me. Any other thoughts about the significance of this release or where Zoho's going from here?
Yeah, I mean, just to close it out, I think this is a very significant release because it is unifying Zoho One to a new level across these three very significant levels of the experience, the integration, and intelligence. And just a point about intelligence itself, to really get to something like unified intelligence, which is what we're talking about, you have to understand all of the context, you have to have the capabilities, and you have to have the integrations. And the point ultimately, I guess I'm trying to make is that these three things, just when you keep thinking about them and talking about them, they just become more interconnected. And you realize that you can't really do one without the other. And so we're just very excited to be taking these steps forward because there's a lot of really cool things going on in the industry right now. But we feel very strongly that no one is really investing in some of the things that we're doing at the level that we are, whether it's a broad suite of applications, it's whether it's the directory service, whether it's unifying or making it really easy to integrate your domain, right, with your email service or your CRM, right? There's so many cool things that we're doing, and we're just very, very excited with what the team has done, and all credit to them, obviously.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Taylor. This really appreciate your insights here, and it's been quite a journey up to this point, but I'm really happy to see how much has been rolled into this latest version.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Really appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for joining us here on Intellyx's Zoho Development Stories.